I am Miss Teacher, and today's video is going to be on how to write your lesson plan. So first thing you want to do is get on Google and you're going to type in lesson plan template, and you're going to find any of these that you like. Once you find one that you like, you are simply going to print it out and you're going to start using it. So this is specifically for you. This is not for your principal. This is not for your co-teacher. This is for you. Okay, before you start filling all this information out, the first thing you need to do is know who your audience is. Who are you lesson planning for? Are you lesson planning for your little babies, your third graders, your middle schoolers, or are you lesson planning for your older students, high school students? Who are you lesson planning for? Okay, who is this lesson plan for? Is it for all of them? Is it for one grade? Is it for two grades? Who? Okay, so once you have that done and you know who your audience is, then you are going to come up with your objective. So your objective is strictly on what you want your students to leave that day knowing. They don't have to know how to they don't need to know exactly the grammar term of it, but they need to know exactly how to use it. For example, I teach my younger students does as a keyword to understand third person singular. So if they hear a question that says, what does he paint? They know that that S from does is going to trickle on over to paint, and they would say he paints his wall. So that is one of the objectives I want my kids to remember is third person singular. But I'm not going to tell my students, hey, you're going to remember third person singular today. I want them to remember when they hear or see the word does, they're going to trickle that S onto the action. I don't tell them about to be verbs just yet, but they're going to trickle it on over to the action. And I hate questions that says, what does he do? It's a bit harder, but those questions I try to leave generally for my older students. So if my younger students are learning third person singular, my older students are going to learn third person singular as well. But their questions are going to be a bit more harder. What does he do? Then I'm going to teach them. You add S to the verb or the action. Depending on how older, I might still say action if it's for my sixth graders. If it's for my middle graders, I will say the verb. And then I will teach them what a verb is. Actions and the to be verb, what are the verbs that means that something exists. So whatever your objective is, you want to make sure it is clear to you because this is your lesson, and you want to make sure you have one because your students need to leave that day having to understood some form of grammar, but not really knowing that they have learned grammar. Okay, if that makes sense, I hope it does. So you're not going to actually teach grammar, but you're going to let them know about third person singular or first person singular or second person, whatever it is that you're teaching. You're not going to tell them the grammar of it, but you're going to let them know that this is how you recognize that this is that sentence and how to properly answer. For example, I want my students to recognize does, you add S to the action or the verb. Okay, I hope I made that clear. If not, please comment below and I will try my hardest to make it even clearer. So after you come up with your objective, you're then going to fill out your form. You're going to fill it out. When you come to the main juicy part of writing down a summary of your lesson, you're going to write it out as a play. You're going to have it like a script. You're going to have teacher or me or something like, I'll say, hello students, how are you? Have you ever been to China? And your students say, hello teacher, no, we haven't been to China. Yes, we have been to China. I did this, I did that. And you'll be like, oh, what did you do? Like, have it written out so you can have a general idea of how your class is going to run to keep it on track and not veer off. If you do happen to veer off, just grab your students and be like, okay, that's very good, okay, now back to the lesson. Okay, get them back on the lesson. You don't want to trail off, especially if it's a 30 to 45 minute class, because those classes aren't long and you have a ton of work to do in those a short amount of time. So you don't want to trail off, and to make sure you don't trail off, you want to have a script of every single thing you're going to say. This will help you where you won't forget anything. It will help you where you could be less nervous when you teach, and it will just help you. It's not going to hurt just to have it. And if you can later on down the line do it without a script, that's perfect. But starting off, you might want to have a script. Even now when I teach at a church that I teach Sunday school at church, I take the book and I highlight everything that I'm going to say to the students. Every part that I'm going to say, I write it down so I can just stay on track and not lose anything that is important that I need to tell them, so to get their little minds thinking and their little brains turning and their little brains answering and remembering. Awesome. So after you do that, you're going to make sure that each activity that you write down, you want to write down the time. How much time is it going to spend for you to greet? How much time is it going to spend on vocabulary? How much time on the main lesson? How much time on your writing activities? You want to have time, especially if you have a short, small 30 to 45-minute class or even an hour class. Those classes go by fast. So you might think, oh, an hour class is not going to go by fast. If you have a lot to do in that hour, yes, it will. If you don't, no, it's not. That's why you still want to make sure you plan out the time. So then you know that you're not going to rush through it, and you're not going to be like, okay, I finished the lesson in like 30 minutes. Now I have 30 more minutes. What am I supposed to do? It has happened to me so many times. It has not been funny. Oh, it's the scariest thing, because you're just like sitting there staring at your students like, what are we supposed to do now? We can't move on to the next lesson because that makes it where tomorrow I won't have anything to teach. What are we going to do? So make sure you write down your time. It is so important to write down your time. Even now, I need to write down my time, because you don't want to go overtime and have to rush. Your students do not retain information when they have to rush. The last thing you want to do is rush through your lesson, and the last thing you want to do is to finish your lesson early. I know some kids like to talk more than others. If they do, let them talk for at least 1 or 2 extra minutes and then bring them back. Snapping your fingers, hey, you might think it's rude. Well, it's not. Trust me. It's to get your class back in order. Some people like me now, I have a bell in my class, and when my class just gets loud and rowdy and off topic, I just ding, 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 ding. Come back. Come back. Okay, come back to the lesson. So having this type of lesson plan is very important, and it will help you. Now, I know a lot of you may have to write down a little summary of what you will teach each day for the whole entire year. I had to do that when I was in the talk program. I don't know if Epic has to do it, and I don't know if any other programs make you do it, but just in case you do have to do it, these are some of the topics, some, not all. These are some of the topics that you must teach your kids, because it is something that they will run into when learning English and having to speak it. You want to teach your students third person singular. Now, you don't want to go into the grammar, because once again, if you're in South Korea, it is illegal for you to teach grammar. So don't go into the grammar. You will just tell them the key words in a sentence to help them remember and recognize that they need to add s to the verb or the action when they hear a certain keyword. Does is a third person singular question. Always. You will always put, s on the verb with a does question. So you're not going to teach grammar, but you're going to teach keywords. And if your students don't understand, don't give them the answer, please. They're not going to retain the information. To help them think and to be independent learners, which I'm doing research on now, and I will share that with you, you will simply just restate the question, emphasizing the key words in the question. If you spend too long on it, you eventually might have to give them the answer if they don't catch on. But don't give up. Don't be discouraged. Just keep doing it that way, and eventually, hopefully, they'll catch on. If not, the student probably struggles with learning English, or they just don't care. Either way it goes, try your hardest. And if they don't try, that's on them. But as long as you try your hardest, you're doing your job. Don't worry. You're going to want to teach past tense too. What I teach when I teach past tense is that did is past tense. It's a past tense word. When you hear did in a sentence, your verb is automatically going to be past tense. What did you see? See is going to change to past tense. It's going to change to I saw. You're never going to say I see. And you're going to be like, well, that's not always right. Sometimes we do switch up tenses when we talk. We're fluent. They're not. Don't teach them that. Please do not. Please do not. They will not understand. We are fluent. They are not. Okay? Okay. Awesome. So to help your students to understand easier without teaching grammar, you're just going to let them know that did is past tense, and anytime you see did in a sentence, whatever verb comes after did, it's going to change to past tense. You don't have to explain it like that, but you're going to let them know that it changed to past tense. You're going to teach past tense verbs. The normal ones, you could teach the irregular ones like said and saw and cried. Those are the most used ones, like tried, that we do use. And you don't have to explain that it's irregular. Just, tell them, say it's present tense, said it's past tense. What did he say? He said, come here. And the only verb that changes to past tense, because remember, he said, come here. You want to let them know the only verb, he does not say he said came here. No, you want to let them know that the only verb that's going to change is the verb that's in the sentence with did. What did he say? What did he do? Do is going to be the main verb. He clapped his hands and stumped his feet. Okay, so we're not going to get into that grammar. We're not going to get into it. Okay, we're not going to get into it. So anyways, another one you want to teach is future tense with can and will. And let your students know when you see can, when you see will, the verb is present tense always. We don't say I will saw unless you're actually using a saw to saw something. I will see. I will go. I will come. I will clap. I will laugh. All those are present tense verbs. Okay. After that, you want to teach there, and there. You have to teach the difference between that, because if not, your students are going to be very confused. So teach that difference. After that, yeah, that's important. After that, you want to teach plural answers. Whatever questions that you have that has plural answers, you want your students to answer with plural. Okay, teach them that S means plural. Anytime they see S at the end of a thing, an object, it means more than one. I have 2 apples. I have 3 oranges. They need to know, and they also need to learn ES. So don't forget ES. I see 2 beaches. Okay, don't forget that. And you also want to teach them as speaking as in a group. Where are y'all going? We are going. Or what are you doing? We are playing. Let them know that you is for singular, and you can also be meaning you all as a group. Okay? So once you teach that, you also need to teach I am answers. They need to know, where are you going? R changes to am. I am going. Also, teaching your younger students to speak in present progressive when they have the subject, the to be verb, and the action. They add ing to the action. It's easier than anything else. When they get older, start teaching past tense, future tense, and all that, and it just becomes easier to teach them all that when they're older. But as they're little learners, teaching them present progressive first is the way to go. I suggest it. You don't have to do it. But those are the main things that you will want to teach your students throughout the year. You can repeat these lessons as many times as you want. Don't think when you teach it one time, they're going to remember it. So you can also repeat these lessons just using different questions and different phrases each time, so the kids can get used to remembering. I don't suggest you have a different topic each time you teach. Those topics that I just gave you are perfect for the year. Just interchange them out throughout the year and using different questions and different responses to get the kids remembering the key words that they need to remember in the lesson. And this has been how to learn how to write a lesson plan. I am so sorry. It was 15 minutes long. I didn't think it was going to be this long. I thought it was going to be shorter. I'm sorry, but I hope this video has been useful to you. And I hope you get out there and you lesson plan as best as you can. And as always, be blessed.